Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Eating at a Meeting. And my slides are backwards today. Anyways, whatever. Hello. I am in my home office, and I'm excited to join you here and introduce you again to it's doing backwards to my friend Chef Keith Norman. He is an allergen awareness trainer, and he is the food safety manager and assistant executive chef at the South Point Hotel, Casino, and Spa in Las Vegas. Hello, my friend.
Good morning.
I was thinking this morning before we got on here that I remember meeting you at Mandalay Bay you came to meet me face to face at Mandalay Bay during the exhibitor show, and that was like 14 years ago.
Yeah, and I've held on to you for 14 years.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, that was a good. You always get the opportunity to meet great people, and I'm honored to say that I met you 14 years ago, and here we are today.
I know, and I've been down to South Point. It's not on the Strip, but it is. Right. Well, it's further down on the Strip, right?
Yeah, south of the south end of the Strip. Yeah.
South end of the Strip. So I've been down there and I've eaten at your restaurant. So I'm excited. And I was there to celebrate your book launch. So yes, I'm somewhere over there.
2018.
Yes, exciting. Yeah. Okay, so today, everybody, and if you're joining us live or you're joining us on the replay, thank you for joining us. Keith is one of my go-to persons on allergen awareness training. He's pretty adamant about it. They've got really great training practices at South Point Hotel, Casino, and Spa. And we're going to talk about food safety right now because I think it's kind of at a crossroads. And what we as planners and event professionals need to know about food safety. And Keith, this is big picture, talking about there's so many headlines right now around food safety, and with the cutbacks at the CDC and the FDA. Do you feel the U.S. food safety, this is really coming at it hard for you, but do you think the U.S. food safety system is at a crossroads right now with what's going on, what you see nationally?
Yeah, I think in some ways, but the beauty of things is most manufacturers or folks that we purchase from, have to be approved sources. So, they are going to, I'm sure that there's manufacturers who are, under the gun who may, cut corners here and there. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. But as the end user, we still have a part to play, and, still doing business with approved sources, I think is key. So I wouldn't necessarily go out and grab a new, say for instance, if it's someone you've always purchased beef or chicken from, and now you go to someone new, you want to definitely vet that person first. If it's local, that's an easy thing because most local business, are affected by the health department. So that's an easy lookup. So I think it's a time to be more diligent.
Yep. And I do want to point, we can jump into this as well, but thinking through a lot of the things from international or national level down to state and then down to county. But just keeping with the CDC really quickly, I read the other day that they're now only going to monitor for salmonella and E. coli through FoodNet instead of all 8 different pathogens. As a chef and as a food safety person, what does that mean for outbreak detection? I mean, and I'm going to say from what I've learned is that you as somebody in a hotel, you have a little bit more knowledge about these recalls before we as consumers see them.
Yes.
But how is that going to, impact food service?
Well, I think, first of all, you can get on the FDA recall list. So there's a lot of different organizations. So folks can be in the know. Just sign up for the recall list. But I think for chefs and restaurants, we have to be a little more diligent when it comes to FDA minimum standards, meaning that, you got to definitely make sure the chicken is cooked to 165, so the practices in the kitchen, I think, just enhance. I mean, we do a lot of great things, which I'm sure other restaurants do, but now I think more so we're the end user now. We have to be more diligent in, all of the FDA standards. And like I said, minimum, you know, everything that comes into a restaurant has some level of bacteria on it. I trust the FDA standards. So if we're cooking, regardless of what they do and what they're doing, these guidelines have been in place for years, right? And they've always worked, and they'll still work regardless of what the FDA or CDC, whatever they do. The practices that we've had in place will still work. We as chefs, I think, just need to be more diligent in that in practice, making sure hands are washed, gloves are changed, thermometers are being used. And I think if we stay there, we're going to be okay.
Okay. And, and then jumping to that differentiation. I mean, the FDA layoffs, I mean, how is that? They're not the ones coming into your kitchen to giving
Right.
you a health inspection, right?
Right.
You've got your local health inspector doing that. So
Yes.
have you seen any impact in that respect with all these headlines? Is it impacting locally or just nationally?
I think more nationally. I mean, some of the purveyors we have here, have an internal
Hmm.
uh, health inspector, for lack of better. So again, like I said, the just because things changed, up there, if we on this level just maintain, like I said, things are just changing now, but the procedures have been in place for years. And if the manufacturer, and even manufacturers, they still have, even if they're not getting inspected as frequently as they used to, they still have dedicated, food safety knowledgeable folks within the facility. So I think those folks will now, just kind of raise the bar a little bit for
Hmm.
themselves, just to kind of maintain.
And, as a planner who's bringing my event to you, how do I have to trust you, right? That you're doing that work and doing that due diligence with that.
Yes.
So what questions should we be asking you as a planner if I was bringing an event to your hotel?
Well, I would ask to walk the kitchens. That's a
Mhm.
telltale.
Mhm.
If the kitchens are clean, like, we have our executive steward here is he's crazy. He things are, but that's a passion for him, and
Mhm.
I think um, ask for a walk, right? Yeah, especially if it's a catering event, your banquet kitchen, and then ask what food safety training, not just on the managerial level, but how do you train, the team? If in the states that require health cards, there's a level, excuse me, there's a level of training there, already.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I would definitely inquire as to, what kind of training have you gone? Most of us have done, ServSafe, which is
Mhm.
required, here. Most of us have done that, and but I think the walk through and to look into the refrigerators and kind of see, that's just a telltale of how most places manage food safety. But asking about training, I think is really really key. What certifications do you have? How often do you train?
Mhm. Yeah, because one of the things that I've been saying recently is like you can do your serve safe training, and I just renewed my manager one. But at the same time, that's 8 hours in a classroom. That's not necessarily implementation.
Yeah.
And how do you? That's a good question for us meeting planners to ask. Is like, okay, so yes, they have their food handler card, but what are you doing internally to maybe reiterate that training?
Yeah. Well, we have a computer lab. We have a variety. If you go to the Southern Nevada Health District website, there's videos, there's all kind of training tools there, which most of them I use because when they inspect us, so why rewrite the book?
Mhm.
But I think we have a computer lab with a good number of, from hand washing to how to use a thermometer, those type of videos, and they're 3 to 5 minutes, and so we'll take a room and have them go, but also pre-shift, right?
Mhm.
Most facilities will do a pre-shift. It takes 60 seconds to share information. right? So I think, and that's what we do here. We do a lot of pre-shift training, which I think is key. And then for me, I'm always on the floor. I'm always moving around, and I see something, say something, and I do something about it, and that's what I encourage managers and chefs to do as well. So if you're already actively, doing something, daily, you
Mm-hmm.
know, again, that walkthrough is a telltale. Just your
Mm-hmm.
conversation is a telltale, and then you can also ask. We did some interviews here recently for a new position here. One of my questions to the managers were, "How's your relationship with the health department? Tell me about your most recent inspections, right? Have you
Mm-hmm.
ever been down? Have you ever been downgraded?" And all none of them said they have been, which is great,
Yeah.
But in the event that there's a downgrade, well, can you tell me? I mean, you're just sharing. It doesn't have to be a negative thing, but you
Right.
want to get a feel for, you have a large group coming in and you want them to be safe.
Right. Well, even like, is 100% realistic? I mean, like, and I don't even know how do they grade in Las Vegas or in Nevada? Is it A, B, C's with just
Yeah, we're in the
okay,
ABC system. So we
okay,
have 11 points will give you a B grade.
okay,
So ours is broken down to fives and threes, five for critical, three for major. And it's a combination. It's broken down to three sections, right? So hand washing, of course, temperatures are going to be those 5 pointers. But food safety is not just when the health inspector shows up. Food
right,
safety is year round. We get one inspection a year, but 11 months out of the year, we're doing our thing. And again, that's how a lot of places you hear the health department's in the building, everybody's running around. Well, we don't run around. We don't run. Oops, sorry. We don't run around here. When she comes, we welcome her and we move forward.
Well, and that's a good point. And I wanted to bring up that we're having this conversation because September is Food Safety Awareness Month. And I always like to bring this to the forefront in September, but it is, like you said, food safety is year round, 24/7, 365.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
the nice thing here is we don't have a tremendous amount of changeover or turnover. So
mhm.
most of like management team here, we've all been here 20 plus years,
Oh,
the
wow.
team as well. So there's not a lot of, which I feel for, restaurants who have a lot of turnover because you're constantly training someone new. So I don't
Mhm.
necessarily have that issue here because everybody's been here. They've been around me for, I've been here at South Point for 18 years. So they've been around me. So
Mhm.
things that I have in place, it's just like second nature. And that's what I would say to eateries, right? You in your pre-shifts, you can share 60 seconds worth of information, right? And you share that information for a week. And I think your team, okay, well, number one, when you think of the culture, if they know I'm serious, then they're gonna take it seriously as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I was reading an article the other day, about, again, going back to like, hey, here's your test, here's what you've done on food safety, but the culture in that facility is even of utmost importance as well, because if it's not coming from the top, and you're expecting, your people to adhere to it, if you're not adhering to it, how does that play out, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it 100%. And our motto here is protect the A. And knock on
Protect
wood,
the what?
protect the A. So
Okay.
ABC. So the A card is a nice blue card that
Mhm.
signifies that that we've maintained health department standards. Then the B grade is a green card. And that's again 11 to 20 to 21 points would give you a B grade. And our inspector is really really cool. She's very focused and knock on wood when she comes in she doesn't everyone's going to find violations, but when we haven't been downgraded in 17 years here, and I try to again that comes from pre-shift training, the lab training. I'm always on the floor, and then when the health inspector is here, I allow the manager and chef to walk with her, so they get a nice dose of how inspections go, and then
Mhm.
they're able to give that to their team.
That's awesome. And the fact that you say that you're on the floor too means that your food safety practices are going to the front of the house team, not just the back of the
100%.
house. Yeah.
We train I pull everyone off the floor once a year for allergen and food safety training. We train together, front of the house. We're one team. So front of the house and back of the house in the same room. So everybody listens to the same music.
So everybody gets along for the front of the house and the back of the house?
Oh, 100%. With that, Tracy, as you know, that I mean, really, that's the only way, right?
Mhm.
We're not front of the house, but I hate it when we say that. We're not front of the house, back of the house. We're one team, right? So when you think about food safety, if for some reason someone gets sick, we have a lawsuit. It doesn't just affect back of the house. You're not going to say, "Oh boy, it was the back of the house." No, we're in this together, right? So yeah, when I pull. Normally, it's the slowest month. When I'll pull, I might do a 7-day training cycle, and I pull everybody off the floor, and everybody's in a training room, and I take them through if there's any health department changes. But it's just really a nice 30-minute refresher.
Mhm.
They have me, and they can ask questions and stuff, and then we go. But it has to be, like I said, food safety is year round, so it has to be a
Mhm.
constant, constant feed of, well, he's saying it again. Well, yeah, because he's serious about it. So it
Right.
has to be.
Yeah.
And then when we talk about culture, um, from my owner to my GM down to my food director and executive chef, we all sing the same song, right? And our
Mhm.
goal again is protect the A.
Yeah. Well, and then protecting the A protects all of your guests,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes,
And okay, so I want to jump to the fact that you are, for food allergic families, you are a destination. You
yes,
you you made your hotel a destination with
yes.
your mentality and that culture that you bring. And so, how have you found that? Um, I'm like, in the 18 years that you've been there and the 15 that I've known you, I mean, how has that translated into new customers and reviews and things like that?
Yeah, no. Um, I track my allergens. We probably do 1,000 allergens a month,
Okay.
here between our restaurants. A lot of that is gluten. Gluten is my
Mhm.
biggest, um, not allergen, but my biggest need here.
Mhm.
But I think trust.
Mhm.
We have, I know Kendall Hollinger out of California,
Mhm.
baby Emma out of California, the Hom family out of
Yep.
California. So I think over the years, the Gordon family, which started my journey in 2009. But I think trust. They know. We just had a couple of families that have come in, and it's really neat when you have a teenager that's never eaten in a restaurant and you have the opportunity to change that life. But I think over the time I've been here, I think trust.
Mhm.
We're not perfect, and I don't train to be perfect. I train them to follow procedure, and I
Mhm.
think I think if I can get them, which we do that well, and I'm not gloating, but I think with anything, not just whether it's food safety or driving a car, right?
Mhm.
Procedure matters, and I try to get the team here. We certify again through AllerTrain, every
Mhm.
3 years. But again, I pull everybody off the floor each year. But I think if you have a good system in place, it doesn't have to be, I don't think mine is, daunting. I
Mhm.
just think it's a series of steps that have addressed all of the points where, as you know, cross contact can happen. And I think communication and cross contact are the number one and two on keeping a guest safe. And
Mhm.
those are some of my focal points. But, procedures matter. And if you have a good procedure in place and the team buys in,
Mhm.
it's a beautiful thing. And that's what we've done. Again, I'm very proud of what we do here. I don't know what everyone, around the country does. I know there's a
Mhm.
lot of eateries because I see them on some of the news feeds every now and then. I know there's a lot of chefs out there doing beautiful things, and thank you very much. But I think over the time, the 17 years of doing this here, I think, the nice thing is when you go into the restaurant, you don't see me, you see the team, and they're
Right.
the ones I think that are creating the culture,
Yeah.
here. And we want folks to know that. we care, and I believe that every allergen guest deserves a place at the table.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that the team that you mentioned, they're the ones that are interfacing with the guests, and so they're not necessarily going to interface with you because you might be on your vacation, right?
Yes.
And so the fact that you've trained them that they know how to answer the questions, or they know how to go get you or someone else, that's the important part, because to me that also empowers that team to be stronger in their role, right?
Yes.
And value their role so much more.
Yeah. No, you're right. I've seen several allergen plans from other places, and the one thing that I've done here is I've seen some where the manager, deals with the allergen from A to B, and that's fine. I'm not knocking at all, but I also think that, as you said, when we empower, the servers are amazing. Even in my buffet, they have, we have a program there. They're crazy in there. Just the things that they do, to make the guests safe. And again, very proud of what they do. But if you have a good procedure, and like I said, when I pull them off the floor, they know I care. And when they interact with a Kindle or an Emma, you know, um, and they see that passion, that comes from this baby sitting there looking at you saying, well, I'm going to trust you, that you're
Right.
going to take the information down correctly. Chef always comes to the table, and those are just some of the things that the guests that we have coming here. We just had Run for a Million event a couple of weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the organizers, my catering director, called me because he said, well, we can't feed her. And I said, well, what's going on? So I go, I'm not laughing in a ha-ha way, but I go to
Right.
meet her, and she says, listen, I'm going to just tell you what I can eat because I have so many allergens that I'm going to just make you go crazy. And when she had over 20. And when
Uh-huh.
she started saying them off, I said, okay, I get you, I get it. Tell me what you can eat. And she gave
Mm-hmm.
me a whole list of things. I had to go to Whole Foods and get a
Mm-hmm.
couple of things. You know what I mean? So things like that is what I think word of mouth, does for us here.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am going to go to Whole Foods or wherever, and some chefs might say to you, well, that's an inconvenience. Well,
Right.
not for one person. We don't get, we do a ton of allergens, but we don't get like 20 at a time. They
Right.
come one or two. So when you think about policy and procedure and feeding allergen guests, it's doable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And and you never know what that person's going to bring
No,
back, right?
no.
And even if that 20, she's going to say, hey, I went to South Point and this is what they did for me. And
Yeah,
that's a head in bed. That's a diner
yeah,
and a butt in a seat and a
yeah.
butt in a seat. Yeah, that's
Well,
right.
and some of the events that we've had, are huge.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great thing. And like I said, and you're out there and you do a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things. In most cases, we do banquets sometimes, and we'll have, but we get the list ahead of time. Banquet
Mm-hmm.
chef, Chef Jamie, she's amazing. We always prepare those allergen friendly meals. So it's doable. You just gotta want to do it.
Right.
You just gotta
That's,
want to do it.
yeah. Okay. So, two questions that I have that in some of the stuff that you said. So, I saw on Instagram or social media, LinkedIn maybe, the conversation between cross contact and cross contamination. Because I think in the UK they still use cross contamination,
Okay.
and you said cross contact. And
Yes.
can you talk and tell everybody the difference between that and why the US switched to the term cross contact?
Well, so when you think about cross contamination, so we're talking about the transfer of harmful bacteria from one surface to another.
Hmm.
So, for instance, if I'm prepping chicken, so you have the chicken juice on the board, and now I go to prepping, say, lettuce, then now you have those juices on the lettuce. Cross contact, I think, is more of a finished item
Okay.
where
Hmm.
like for instance, the deep fat fryer or the tongs that I'm using, right? So it's not a transfer of bacteria, it's a
Hmm.
transfer of that protein, which could be peanut,
Hmm.
dairy, so I'm not sure why the US switched, but I just know that here I try to make sure we're clear,
Right.
on the two, because I think when you think cross-contamination and a person is thinking food safety, right? They may be just thinking, okay, if I wipe this cutting board off with a sanitized towel, I'm good to go. When that's not the
Right.
case. You do need to do the wash, rinse, sanitize, of that
Right.
utensil.
Yeah, and I think I think the difference comes down to that allergen thing, like you just mentioned. It's that the bacteria and everything like that is that contamination aspect
Yeah,
of it, and the contact is going through the buffet and putting the tongs in the wrong thing.
yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for that.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
the other word that you just said was allergy friendly. She prefer so what like gluten friendly. What does that word friendly mean? I'm
Well,
like,
yeah, for me, I mean, saying allergen free, I can't guarantee that.
okay,
Some of my products like Red Plate Foods,
mhm, love
they're
them.
top nine free. Yeah, we have them currently in our gift shop here, and I'm
Oh, awesome.
working. Yeah, yeah.
I
So
won't be visiting you because I will buy you out. So I won't be coming.
trust me, we have enough. But our retail director was kind enough to put them there because we get a lot of events,
Mhm.
where we have allergen guests. And then I'm working now to add them to our menus, so that I have some options. But if I say allergen free for me, that's saying to you, or gluten free, that's saying to you that there's no gluten or allergen, there.
Mhm.
And like with my allergen menu, we vetted all those items. So can I say that they're allergen free? Yes, because most of those items are really boring, uh, which is okay. So I know for the most part that those items are allergen free. But allergen friendly for me just kind of says to you that, I've done everything I can with
Mhm.
this dish to make it free of your dairy concern.
Mhm.
And I think that gives another level of trust.
Okay. Yep. Okay. All right. Can we address the boring? Can we make them boring? Why do they have to be boring?
Well, I don't mean boring like boring, but what I mean is I don't want my team to prepare a dish with 15 steps
Mhm.
for an allergen guest. I want to keep it simple, right? So there's again, when we're talking about reducing the risk and reducing the chances that that meal becomes contaminated, I try to just keep the steps simple. So in most cases, we're not adding parsley. We're not adding, you know what I mean? We're not adding some of the things you may think are simple. There's still that potential, right?
Okay.
So I try to limit the chances of cross contact or taking a dish that was allergen friendly and now it's not. So, and I don't mean boring in the sense that it doesn't have flavor and it doesn't have some wow, but
Mhm.
you're not going to get a nice turned mushroom and those kind of things. So I just try to get these guys. If I can give you a safe meal in 5 steps versus 15, that's what I
Okay.
try to train them to do.
All right. No, that makes a lot of sense because it's reducing the amount of contact that
Yeah.
there's potential for contamination.
Yeah.
Or
And Tracy,
yeah,
you also know that most allergens are coming into the kitchen when we're already rocking and rolling. So if I
right.
have to take the designated cook, say he's on the app station, but
Mhm.
he's designated to do allergens today, and you have that allergen that comes in, and it takes him 15 or 20 steps to make it safe. Um,
Mhm.
After a while, they're going to be looking at me like, dude, you're crazy.
Yeah.
So again, I want the things that I do to be user friendly. I want
Mhm.
them to buy in. And if I know that 3 steps, I've just put an allergen friendly meal in the window, and it's going to keep you safe, they're looking like, yeah, right. And then they can go back to their business.
Okay, that makes sense because it's a busy place, that kitchen. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so let's talk about labeling. and I'm going to talk about labeling in unpackaged foods. So in 2022, the food code, the FDA's food code said that one, sesame is added to the list.
Yes.
Two, unpackaged food should be labeled with the top 9 allergens and when it's served in bulk. There are now, when I last looked, which was like last week, 10 states that have adopted that. And I'm still trying to get into what that adoption means by state, because as we know in Europe, the EU has had it now for 11 years, and every state, every country is a little bit different. But and then California differently is working to pass the ADDI bill, SB 68, which would make it legislation that the top 9 allergens need to be labeled. How, and you and I had this conversation before we started here, I am all for this. I do want the top 9 allergens labeled when it comes out on a buffet and things like that. But there's challenges behind all of that.
Yes.
So how do you, first of all, how do you see this shaping best practices in hotels and restaurants and event catering nationwide?
Well, I think, as we were mentioning, so my freestanding restaurants, when you look at the menus, ours is pretty huge. And to add this to the menu, is it doable? If we have to do it, we're going to do it. But I think there should be options to how this is done. And as I mentioned to you, I already have an allergen menu here. And I think for printing purposes, that would be a better fit for me. I think the bill is more than likely going to restrict what buffets, the few that we have here in town, restrict what they do, meaning they're probably going to move away from allergen, because I think it's just going to be tough, because here, we have over 200 items on our buffet, and to have a label, with all the allergens listed, I think that's going to, I think buffets, concession areas, I think probably be tough. Restaurants, I think it'll be doable, but I also hope, and I'm for the bill too. I'm not pushing against, but I just think that it needs to be well thought out. Because how is this going to affect catering and concessions and buffets and conventions? Because those are different animals. So maybe a regular menu. Because when you think about, say, chicken fried steak, probably you're going to have the dairy, you're going to have the wheat, so maybe that's one or two. Your chipinos, maybe you have 4 or 5 allergens that are listed. But as I mentioned to you too, I believe that to get everything on a menu and to not have to go to a 6-page menu, that font is going to be, going to be small. So I just hope that as the bill rolls out, I don't know if there's been any round tables.
I think they did say that it doesn't have to be on the print. It could be on a QR code or on the website and stuff. So I know they changed it a little bit with that. That's the California law. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is not passed yet, but they're pushing. Yeah.
But even the QR code, I mean, for most places, who's going to maintain that? As ingredients changes, is there going to be a way, to be linked to the FDA? So if things change there, the change trickles down. So, but again, I also don't know if they had roundtables. I mean, if as it moves from state to state, you're asking us as chefs, to buy in. I think that there should be a opportunity for us to come to the table.
Right.
And it may have already been done, but I just don't know.
Yeah, I've been high level with them in California, and I've submitted my support of the bill and really want to push it forward. But like in the FDA food code, like Ohio and Colorado and I think Utah and Pennsylvania have all adopted the FDA food code. But from what I found is that, yes, it's there, but there's no guidelines around what that means. And I've asked, and they're like, well, we're just going to do it. And I'm like, okay, but what does that mean? Especially with what we do, right, in this hospitality side of the things. It's like, if you're a catering company, you're making it in your building, right? Building A, and then you're going to go serve it in B, C, D, E, and F. And where does the health inspector check those labels? Who's proofing them? And how do we know that they're put in front of the right foods at A, B, D, E, F, and G?
Well, I haven't seen a training component. I think there should be some mandatory, for lack of better, training. I mean, just because you're going to make me label everything, what's my knowledge of food allergy? Labeling is going to be, I think, fairly simple. We send it out to the printing company. We're sending it out with directions, and they're going to just do what we've asked them to do. But no one's mentioned training. I think training should be a part of any bill coming to the table asking us to do whatever it is you're asking us to do. There should be a training. There should be a like some of the states that require training, posters and things like that. I just think that we should think about those things too.
Right, exactly. Because it's a lot more steps than people realize that it is. And in my biggest example, and I don't have it with me, but it's like Worcestershire sauce, right? And like, if you're going to put that in a dish, what's a recipe that you have Worcestershire sauce in?
We use it more in marinades.
Okay.
So a lot of marinades will take woo sauce.
But that's got fish in it.
Right.
So if somebody's got a fish allergy, does your server know that Worcestershire sauce was used in that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, how about if we just go to the source? Are you going to force, and I don't mean force in a negative way, but are you going to force like manufacturers to begin altering their, like for instance, if we use woo sauce in 6 different items here at the hotel, but now we're going to try to be more allergen friendly, and we remove woo sauce from these recipes. Now that takes money away from the manufacturer. So now are we going to force them to start making woo sauce without fish?
Right. Yeah. Well, is that where tamari came from?
Yes, but I mean, and that's not a bad thing. I'm not knocking anyone. I'm just saying that things that are changing, right, not only affects me as the end user, I think if that's an ingredient that enhances my dish and I want it, maybe maybe I reach out to manufacturer and say, like for instance, we had a guest that came in and loves the ranch dressing, so we make it fresh here, but we also use the Hidden Valley ranch packet, which has the allergen in there. So I reached out to the company to say, hey, we have a guest A, B, and C. So they sent me some options, right? So they already have an option for me. So are we going to ask manufacturers to now think that way? So that I don't want to give up my woo-woo sauce, but I need it to be, So I think there's more in the pot than just the bill itself.
Yeah. Okay. Why do you call Worcestershire sauce woo-woo sauce? Because it's just hard to say.
It's just easier. Yeah.
So okay.
Yeah. Just easier.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so let's go back to this meeting planner and asking these questions, because there's a lot in the labeling side, because we're talking on that labeling. 99% of the time, labeling is done by and we're going back to this front of the house, back of the house. The front of the house staff is responsible for making those labels. And I don't know if you've heard me say it on this show before, but I've had chefs yell at me, well, I make the food, I don't have to label it. And then I have front of the house people saying, I don't cook, so how would I know? What suggestions do you have for planners to ensure that accuracy? or to ensure that team effort is there.
Well, if you, again, I'm lucky here. Our team here, and I mean, why create chaos? So what I would say is when you sit down, and you're talking about your event, maybe you just want to be more specific. Meaning you're the customer, right? And you're coming to me, so you're simply saying, I need, right? I need my buffet line labeled in this manner. So maybe you're coming to the table with tools for me. There's no reason for, because again, one team, front and back should be on the same page. The front, in my opinion, should already be aware of, just like here, my front of the house knows the recipes, as well. So I think when you sit down for that first meeting, that's where you're kind of laying out, this is what I need to happen in order for my group to be successful. All of us want your business,
Right.
So I think we should be open to, suggestions. Now, if you throw something on the table that just doesn't make sense, I think it's my responsibility to not tell you that I cook food I don't label, but to suggest, if you want the bottle of water here, but it's more realistic to put it here, that should be a conversation. That shouldn't be, any,
Right.
it's not a fight. I'm the customer bringing business to you, and I need you to make sure that my event goes off with a hitch. And these are just some of the things that I want you to do. Now, the meeting in most cases is 60 days out, if not longer. So we have an opportunity to, have a plan.
Yeah.
I just don't think there's a lot of excuses for things anymore, because most of us have been in the business for 30 plus years. We learn different ways to manage, and places that you've been, they've had events since Jesus was a baby, right? So they should have already, that's why I say here sometimes when, when rodeo season comes, that's not a new busy for us. We've been doing it forever, right? So it's just my responsibility to learn to manage busy a little better. And I think in most cases, when you go to an event and you're sitting down having a conversation, we should already have a plan.
100%. And looking at it, we need to be having the conversation about food safety and incorporating dietary restrictions well in advance, not, when you're planning it and, from the get-go, right? Not as an afterthought. And somebody actually said something to me it wasn't to me, but it was in a session on accessibility. It says, you don't want to be in the position to accommodate. You want to be in the position to, be inclusive. So think through it from the beginning. Yeah. So you're not having to make adjustments that are accommodating, right? Yeah. Design it the other way around.
Well, you know what irritates us sometimes? When we're in the middle of a 1,200 plate dish up, and then you have 6 or 7 dietary needs thrown at you, right? I want to know that up front, so I'm already ready. And if you, and I know you're well experienced in this, but when you sit down, I know you come to the table with all your checklists, but I know that your event coming here is giving me 40 different dietary concerns. When we sit down for the final meeting, I already have that plan for you. And I'm already telling you. Now, keep in mind, I'm not going to go, if you have 40 dietary needs, I may not make 40 different things, but I'm going to have a good variety of things, and at that point, it's choose one or the other, but it's doable.
Well, and also too, I'm like, I want you to sit down. I want to sit down with you and design that menu so it's free of as many of those 40 things as possible, right? Absolutely. Like if it's a nut allergy, let's just eliminate nuts. Yeah. Right. Like that's easy enough, right? And So, there's so many things that go into this, but the safety aspect of it to me is the most important part, right?
Yeah,
Because you
especially
don't,
now.
yeah. And all right, so in the case that somebody had an allergic reaction,
Yeah.
from your perspective, and maybe it's from mislabeled things, it's from, just not knowing, what is the immediate response plan? What does your team do?
Well, we have an EMT on property, and we also have security that are first responders,
Mhm.
and that would be our call, and
Mhm.
then they're on the way. If the guest, knock on wood, we haven't had to experience that. If the guest has an EpiPen, then
Mhm.
we can't inject, we can't do any of that. But if they have one, I would encourage
Mhm.
them epi first, epi fast.
Mhm.
But yeah, so we have an EMT on staff, and our security team, which is they're roving,
Mhm.
they're floor anyway. So once we call security, they're on the way with the EMT, and if it's something serious, then of course they
Mhm.
would be the ones that would call the ambulance to come if
Okay.
necessary.
So I thought Nevada was a state that allowed stock epinephrine.
Yes, but for me, and this is just my opinion,
Mhm.
we're first responders. I'm already in the restaurant. So
Mhm.
hopefully one day I'll be able to stock, in the restaurant where I like the AviQ,
Mhm. And the
'cause that,
Neffy is the new,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. But with that one, I would have to give instruction, and I'm not a doctor. With the
right,
AviQ, it's talking you through.
right.
Um, but yeah, yes, for me, Good Samaritan is still, because we have security that's trained on
Mhm.
staff. Unfortunately, I'm not covered under Good
Mhm.
Samaritan, so yeah.
Gotcha.
But hopefully, one day those things will change.
Okay. Thank you so much. I do
You're
have some
welcome so
rapid
much.
fire questions to ask you real quick before we wrap this up on food safety. And I mean, and as everybody, I've been chatting with Chef Keith Norman, um, who is the assistant executive chef at South Point Hotel, Casino, and Spa. That's a lot of words. And a good friend in this allergy world. But I really appreciate your insight as a food safety instructor, as an allergen advocate, and as an executive chef. So that's really, really important. Okay. What is the most overlooked food safety risk at events?
Probably hand washing.
Hand washing. Okay.
Well, I mean, most of your events that, when I'm rocking and rolling, yeah, hand washing.
Okay. What's the biggest myth about food safety you wish would disappear?
Um, Now that was you got me on that one. Um, a myth that I wish would disappear. I'd have to think through that one and email
Okay.
you later because
Okay.
don't have a good one for that one.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
Okay, I have one for you.
okay, go ahead.
Every now and then we'll get a guest that ate, and like 5 minutes later they'll say they have an FBI, a foodborne illness. So,
Mhm.
yeah, normally not. Okay, so there you go. That's one for you.
Okay, yeah. And foodborne illnesses, they happen later. They're not
Yeah,
like an allergic reaction. Yeah.
depending on what it is.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some can, more rapid than others, but five
Mhm.
minutes after you've eaten is typically not an FBI.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and not the men in black suits coming to you.
Right.
Yeah. If you could make one food safety rule mandatory worldwide, what would it be?
Training,
Okay. Yeah.
because I mean, when we learned to drive, what do? We went through training. I think this is a big area, whether it's food safety or allergens, but training.
Okay. If you weren't a chef, what career would you have chosen?
Um, Knowing what I know now, I would be somewhere in this field, probably a health inspector.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, I
Safety,
tried that.
safety, safety. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Two more. What's the strangest food safety question you've ever been asked?
Strangest. See, that's a zinger too. Probably how quickly bacteria grows, which we
Okay.
know it doubles every 20 minutes. And that comes sometimes from the front of the house when I'm, when you're talking about cleaning tables and things. So that's probably.
Okay. And this is completely off the record or off, completely away from things. But my friend Jessica posted it on Facebook the other day, that pineapple is a requirement for pizza. So pineapple and pizza, food safety risk or just a taste debate?
Yeah, we'll be doing pineapple and pizza. Not a food safety risk, but yeah, I won't be doing pineapple.
No, me neither. I said, nope, no, thank you. Yeah.
I like to do because I'll make pizza at home, and I'll look in the refrigerator because I come up with some. I don't like to throw things away, so I'll have stuff. My son will look at me sometimes like where'd that come from? So I have all kind of things, but not pineapple.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't think so. Yeah. Okay. Well, everybody, this has been Chef Keith Norman again from Las Vegas. You can connect with him on Facebook on keith.norman.98 if you like. You can also go visit them at the South Point Hotel, Casino, and Spa in Las Vegas. Keith, thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Always good to see you.
Likewise, I might run by on October 5th. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm coming in town for IMAX, so I'll be there for 4 days.
Okay, give me a shout. We'd love to see you.
Okay. All right. Likewise. Yeah. All right. Everybody, this is Food Safety Awareness Month. If you're just listening to us, if you're listening to us on the replay, please ask questions. Keith and I will definitely be able to answer it after the fact. We're here to answer all kinds of food safety questions. But until next week, stay safe and eat well. Thanks.